Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hannah Kaufman, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Vice President of Dalhousie University's Women in Engineering Society, and I would like to begin by acknowledging that while this is a virtual event, many of us are in Maggy, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the Treaties of Peace and Friendship with Mi'kmaq and the Dalhousie people, first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and the Dalhousie title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between the nations. Dalhousie University sits on the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people. I welcome and thank you for attending today's ceremony of Remembrance and Resilience. Our society is honored to host an annual event in remembrance of the École Polytechnique's massacre that occurred 31 years ago today on December 6, 1989. Today we remember the 14 women that were taken too soon and honor all the women who are victims of violence. I am proud to be here today, representing a woman in engineering. Just like the 14 women who were killed 31 years ago today, I proudly dare to take up space. Of the women who were killed, 12 of them, like me, were wrapping up their final semester of their engineering degree, with bright eyes for the future. The two other women that were killed were a nursing student and a clerk in the finance department. Though I cannot speak to their experience, I know they too had a world of possibilities ahead of them. Every year, as the Women in Engineering Society, we come together on this date to acknowledge the loss of our predecessors through this memorial. Though we have come so far in the past 3 decades, from the first iPhone to the legalization of gay marriage, we have so far yet to go. Half of all women in Canada have experienced at least one incident of physical or sexual violence since the age of 16. Not to mention that Indigenous women are killed at 6 times the rate of their non-Indigenous counterparts. December 6th is a day to remember who we are and where we came from. Today symbolizes determination and perseverance for all women. Despite the adversity, despite the resistance, women continue to push boundaries and take up space. For engineering students, for women, today is a day of solidarity, a time to remember and find empowerment in our peers, a chance for new alliances and partnerships. December 6th is a day of reflection on how far we have come and yet to go. A day to honor the courage of those who came before us, those who worked hard for us to work harder. Today, Dalhousie Women in Engineering is honoring the women who were unjustly taken from us on December 6, 1989. Now I will hand over the mic to Erica Kelly, who will read the names of those who lost their lives at the École Polytechnique massacre.
Thank you all for joining. We are gathered here today to remember the tragic events that happened on December 6, 1989 at École Polytechnique de l'Université de Montréal in Montreal, Quebec. On this day, 31 years ago, a lone gunman targeting women opened fire at the engineering campus of École Polytechnique. After walking into an engineering classroom, the gunman ordered all the men and professors to move to the right of the classroom and for the women to move to the left. He yelled, "You're women, you're going to be engineers, you're all a bunch of feminists, and I hate feminists," before opening fire on the women. All 9 women in that classroom were shot, killing 6 and wounding 3. He then proceeded through the school, targeting other women, brutally killing 14 women in 20 minutes of rampage before taking his own life. On that day, 13 students and 1 faculty member were murdered. The women were not murdered for anything they had done, but simply because they were women in engineering and 1 man felt threatened by them. The gunman sought to attend École Polytechnique, but was rejected twice. In his mind, the women were taking his place. What happened in Montreal that day was a senseless act of violence against women that shocked Canada and the world forever. This massacre is characterized as an anti-feminist attack. The wider societal representation is violence against women. December 6th has since been commemorated as the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. Every year, Dalhousie Women in Engineering remember this tragedy and the 14 women that lost their lives. We reflect on the events since that day and remember the victims by holding a memorial for them and laying a rose for each of the women and lighting a candle in their memory. I would now like to share a video and name the 14 women who were murdered at École Polytechnique on December 6, 1989. Geneviève Bergeron, 21 years old, a mechanical engineering student who sang in a choir, played the clarinet, swam, and played basketball. Her sister described her as a giggler. Nathalie Croteau, 23 years old, a mechanical engineering student from Brossard, Quebec. She was planning a grad trip to Cancun, Mexico with her classmate Hélène Colgan. A community center in her hometown of Brossard was named in her memory. Hélène Colgan, 23 years old, a mechanical engineering student who was thinking about pursuing a master's degree. She was best friends with Nathalie Croteau. She had 3 job offers and was planning to accept one in Toronto. Barbara Dagneau, 22 years old, a mechanical engineering student. She was a teaching assistant to her father, who was a professor at Université du Québec à Montréal, and was about to complete a final project 2 days after the shooting. Anne-Marie Edward, 21 years old, a chemical engineering student from Pierrefonds, Quebec. She had graduated from John Abbott College before attending École Polytechnique. While at John Abbott, she was part of many sports teams, a chess team, and was involved in school government. She was always surrounded by friends, and she loved the outdoors. Maryse Lagagnère, 25 years old. She was working in the financial services department of the engineering school. She was married 3 months before her death, and her husband continues to advocate for gun laws to ensure that her death was not in vain. Maryse Leclerc, 23 years old, a materials engineering student and one of the top students in the school. She was the first victim whose name was made public. Her father, a Montreal police officer, was at the scene that night, unaware that she was among the victims until he found her body laying next to the gunman's. He recognized her sweater, which she had bought for Christmas and worn to Sunday dinner the week before. Anne-Marie Lemay, 22 years old, a mechanical engineering student from Montreal, Quebec. She sang in a rock band and was raising money for a class trip overseas and was organizing graduation festivities. Sonia Pelletier, 28 years old, a mechanical engineering student, was the head of her class and the pride of her small town on the Gaspé Peninsula. She planned on returning to her hometown to start her own engineering firm. Michelle Richard, 21 years old, a materials engineering student. She was giving a presentation with her classmate Maude Abietnik at the time of the shooting. She was about to get married. She is described as a best friend and a confidant. Maude Aviernik, 29 years old, a materials engineering student, was described as having an energetic personality. She had already earned a degree in environmental design from Université du Québec à Montréal, but dreamed of becoming an engineer. Annie Saint-Arnaud, 23 years old, a mechanical engineering student from Latuc, Quebec. She had a job interview scheduled for the following day. She had a keen interest in ecology and competed provincially in the 4-H club. Annie Turcotte, 20 years old, a materials engineering student from Granby, Quebec, entered engineering with the dream of improving the environment. She was described as gentle and athletic, and she could bake just as well as she could repair cars. Barbara Kluznik-Vidajevic, 31 years old, was a first-year nursing student who had moved to Canada from Poland in 1987, believing it was the safest place in the world. She was at school that night with her husband, eating in the cafeteria. We look back to remember the victims and look to the present and future to do better. We will now observe a minute of silence in remembrance of the victims.
This is the end of the program. Thank you all for attending.